Hello and welcome to the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. Today's Thursday, November 16th, 2023. So I had a thought. The thought was as follows. I recall in a previous investor presentation, I don't exactly recall which one as I sit here having this conversation with you, but I distinctly recall Matt, I believe our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, mentioning at the time that basically both, I guess, Scrubgrass and Panther Creek were utilizing mine waste material primarily from the Russellton mine waste site. And the reason cited was, if I'm not mistaken, again, don't quote me exactly on this, was that because utilizing that mine waste or prioritizing the reclamation of that mine waste, due to its chemical composition, which was had less sulfur in it, evidently, if I recall correctly, it would thereby require less limestone, which is used to help remove, or mitigate the sulfur during the circulating fluidized bed process, through which all of this mine waste is reclaimed. All right, why does this matter? What am I talking about? What's going on? So in the most recent Q3 2023 investor presentation, the one in which this carbon capture initiative was announced, that particular presentation mentioned that about and I'm paraphrasing again, about 12% of the beneficial use ash would be capable of capturing carbon from the atmosphere. About 12% of it, more or less. I think it was up to 12%. That might have been the phraseology. So I started to wonder, well, if all of this testing that was done at a lab out in California, if all of those buckets upon buckets upon buckets of beneficial use ash, which were mailed to California for testing, if all of that came from the Russellton mine waste site, presumably there's a lot less limestone that was used as part of the process to basically turn the mine waste into the beneficial use ash. Now, that being the case, what happens when, in coordination with the Department of Environmental Protection here in Pennsylvania, what if the contents of a mine waste site isn't Russellton, but rather somewhere else where there's a lot more sulfur? As a result, presumably more limestone would be required as part of the reclamation process, to turn that mine waste into beneficial use ash. So what if adding more limestone essentially then creates a beneficial use ash that becomes more of a magnet for carbon in the atmosphere? See, at the time that Matt, our Chief Financial Officer, made these comments, it was during a time where Stronghold Digital Mining, very rightfully so, was looking for every possible way to reduce costs. So, hey, to the extent you can prioritize mine waste that comes from a site like Russellton, which is a real lunar landscape, it's a real mess out there. Hey, if you could prioritize reclamation work there, it means you don't have to buy as much limestone to put into the mixture, at the mine waste reclamation facilities to essentially be able to produce beneficial use ash. But now that the equation is changing a little bit, and hey, it's like we know we produce beneficial use ash. So yeah, hey, it makes sense. Step one, let's see what the field test results in, Let's actually get some real world in-field results. Assuming we get pretty darn close to that 12% capture percentage, okay, for lack of a more scientific way to describe it, okay? Is it possible that there's an upside that is not even being talked about yet because understandably, hey, Stronghold Digital Mining wants to be very conservative, wants to be very sober-minded about this process, show tremendous discipline in getting results, right, first, before really going out on a limb and making all kinds of promises, that sort of thing. Hey, what if we get into that 10 to 12% range with these in-field tests? Is it possible that by playing with the chemistry, right? Hey, what if you did add more limestone? See, what if you added some other components to this mixture that then goes into the circulating fluidized bed boiler? Is it possible that our beneficial use ash can essentially go from maybe 10 to 12% of an absorption rate of carbon in the atmosphere? What if that goes up to 20%? What if it goes up to 25%? I mean, if it goes up to 25%, we've essentially doubled this estimate, right? Because right now we're kind of in the 12% range. That's kind of like what the benchmark is. But hey, what if through some relatively straightforward, chemically uncomplicated procedures, right? It's not like we're doing anything that dramatic. Hey, it's maybe add some more limestone. Maybe there are some other ingredients that can be added as well. What if the end result is beneficial use ash that can absorb up to, say, 24% of the carbon in the atmosphere? Well, suddenly you're looking at a pretty significant increase in potential private market carbon credits, right? As well as potentially Inflation Reduction Act, 45Q, direct air, capture credits. This is something that I've started playing with online just to kind of like better educate myself as to some of the chemistry behind this. If you happen to be a chemist, please share your thoughts in the description, in the comments of this broadcast, please. Again, our first step understandably is, hey, look, one thing at a time. Let's get these carbolith, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, these carbolith, pieces of machinery, so to speak, right? This equipment installed at Scrubgrass. Let's see what the results are from this first test that's already ongoing. And then, right, we're going to iterate from there. And I wonder if part of that iteration process can include saying, hey, yeah, while it's true that we don't necessarily need to add more limestone given the fact that we're utilizing mine waste that comes from the Russellton site, what if we did start to experiment with the chemistry of what's going into the CFB, the circulating fluidized bed boiler, to see if that might change the absorption rate of this beneficial use ash? I think that's a very thought-provoking concept. Now, something else I want to point out is Greg, our chief executive officer, during the investor presentation, hypothesized about potentially adding maybe something like 50 Bitcoin mining machines to the carbolith. I don't know that Greg necessarily meant to put them inside the carbolith, or to the extent he meant just like, hey, they produce hot air. Maybe there's a way to route that hot air into the carbolith. And why would that be useful, by the way? So it turns out that temperature is a significant factor, it seems, insofar as dictating the pace of absorption. It seems like we're pretty confident we can get a 12% absorption rate. The question is, does it take a week? Does it take 2 weeks, 3 weeks? You're right. And obviously, to the extent we can really compress the amount of time it takes to absorb carbon, even if it's just 12% from the atmosphere, that's going to have a really big impact on our total cost to make this all happen. So I'm sharing this just to kind of add some context, I think, to what, why Greg would have said, hey, maybe we could attach some Bitcoin mining machines to the carbolith. And by the way, to the extent the idea is, hey, let's put Bitcoin mining machines in the carbolith itself. Remember, Greg didn't necessarily say, hey, we're going to go into the market and buy top of the line, cutting edge, Canaan miners to stick into a carbolith. This could very well just be miners that are already installed that need to basically be replaced, right? That we've already got, that can be, sort of like they're somewhat expendable, but they still produce some modicum of hash, right? I shouldn't say they produce hash. What I'm trying to point out is that they produce, they'll still potentially be able to validate transactions on the Bitcoin network. They'll produce heat. We've got them. Hey, what if we can install them or coordinate the placement of some of these machines close to the air intake, what appears to be like air intake circles at the bottom of this carbolith, and thereby sort of like expedite the process, especially during the colder months of the year. And hey, who knows, maybe even in the summer months, right? To the extent it even makes the absorption process even faster. So I think all of this is very thought-provoking. So we are going to have, we're going to dedicate, I think, an entire broadcast to the stock price, okay? And so I'm going to leave you with this little bit of good news. So I saw that a website called Street Insider, this particular website mentioned that Chase White, a very well-regarded analyst at Compass Point, had basically set a new price target for shares of Stronghold Digital Mining of $17 a share. So just to play it safe, given the fact I don't know where Street Insider gets their information, I decided to reach out to Chase directly via email, and Chase was kind enough, thank you Chase, to confirm that indeed his new price target for Stronghold Digital Mining is $17 a share. I'll let you do the math insofar as where shares are trading right now as compared to $17 a share, which is Chase's current price target for Stronghold Digital Mining. And as I said, we're going to devote an entire broadcast to nothing but the stock price, probably tomorrow. So with all of that said, I think there could potentially be additional upside to this carbon capture initiative. And if that's the case, this truly is the ultimate game changer for Stronghold Digital Mining. Okay, my friend, let's stay positive, let's be great, and we'll see each other again tomorrow.